Most people assume government surveillance follows strict rules, that there are clear limits, approvals, and legal protections, and that accessing personal data requires a formal process, something like a warrant reviewed by a court. That assumption creates a sense of protection, a belief that privacy is still controlled by law and that your personal information isn't easily accessed. But what if that's no longer how the system works? What if the barrier isn't being bypassed, but simply avoided entirely? Because in many cases today, the question is no longer whether data can be collected, it's whether that data can be purchased. There is an entire industry built around data collection. Companies track movement, behavior, and digital activity, often through apps, devices, and everyday interactions. Location data is one of the most valuable pieces. It shows where people go, how often, and for how long. Patterns begin to emerge from repeated movement, where someone lives, where they work, where they spend time regularly. Over time, that data becomes extremely detailed, not just isolated points, but continuous patterns, a map of behavior rather than a single location. That information is collected and packaged, then sold through data brokers in large data sets, often labeled as anonymous or aggregated. But anonymous doesn't always mean unidentifiable, because patterns can be traced back to individuals. With enough data and enough correlation, and this is where the system changes. Instead of directly collecting the data themselves, agencies can access information already gathered by purchasing it from commercial sources. No need to track every device independently. No need to build the system from scratch, because the system already exists in the private sector, which means access becomes a transaction, not a legal barrier. And that shift changes everything. Because traditional surveillance required justification. It required approval, documentation, and oversight, a process that created friction before access. But purchasing data operates differently. It moves through commercial pipelines, where information is treated as a product, available to whoever is willing to pay. And once access is granted, the depth of that data becomes clear. Movement patterns, location history, behavior trends over time, not just where someone was once, but where they consistently go, which can reveal routines, habits, and connections, all without directly interacting with the individual. And when that data is combined with other sources, it becomes even more powerful, because separate data sets can be layered together, building a clearer and more detailed profile, until what was once abstract becomes something highly specific. That's where the line starts to blur between what is considered private and what is simply available. Because the system doesn't feel like surveillance, it feels like commerce, a transaction happening behind the scenes without visibility to the person it affects. And most people never see that process. They interact with apps, services, and platforms normally, without thinking about where the data goes or how it's used after it leaves their device. But over time, those small interactions add up, creating a continuous stream of information that exists far beyond the original moment. And once that information enters the system, it can move in ways that aren't obvious, across companies, across platforms, across entirely different use cases, until it reaches places it was never expected to go. That's when the original assumption starts to break down, that access requires permission, that surveillance follows a visible process, that privacy is controlled by clear boundaries. Because the system doesn't always operate that way anymore. It operates through availability, through access, through transactions that don't look like surveillance. And that raises a different kind of question. Not whether data is being collected, but how that data is being used after it's collected. And more importantly, who has access to it. Because if information can be purchased, then access isn't just about authority, it's about availability. So the next time you think about privacy and how your information is protected, ask yourself something different. Is your data being guarded by the system, or is it simply part of a system where access is just a transaction? If you found this video interesting, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you don't miss all the deep dives into the systems shaping our world, and the truth behind them that you may not hear every day. And if you know other independent thinkers who want to understand what's really happening behind the headlines, share this video with them. Then, help out the algorithm, hit that like button and leave a comment below. Ready for the next truth test? Let's go!